Well, I finally finished this one, and I managed to get a time lapse of the whole painting process. It was about 20 hours of painting time stretched across almost 2 years, and I condensed it down into this 13-minute time lapse video. My camera that I used to make the video took a photo every 3 seconds, and with every photo it clicked really loud. It drove me kind of crazy. I don't think I'll do another video like this again unless I get a different camera setup, or if I do smaller paintings that aren't so time consuming and long. But I'm really happy with the way the painting turned out. I wasn't too sure for a while there. I'd given up on it a few times. Well, actually, probably more than a few times. I have a digital painting version I did 3 years ago. This is actually probably the first time that I really like the oil painting version better than one of my digital painting versions. The oil painting version, especially in person, just feels a lot more alive. There's something to do with physically painting in oils that has a way of bringing more life into a painting. I don't know quite what it is. It's like almost like a type of magic. And then I often feel like I'm haunting a canvas because it just has a certain feeling, especially in person, that you can't quite get with doing things digitally or looking at online. People a lot of times ask what everything means in the paintings, about symbolism or all the different kind of little mini stories that could be in there. And most of the time I have no idea. It's just sort of what feels right. And I don't really have an intention of what I want to say. It's just what wants to come out. I've sort of described like coming up with the drawings, the ideas for drawings for these is like digging around in white sand and pulling up dinosaur bones. It's like these things that are just in there waiting. I don't know what they are when I'm pulling them up, or why they're there, or what they want to say, or why they, or where they come from. But it just comes out that way, and I kind of try and do what feels right. Sometimes for better or worse. A lot of times people will come and make observations that I never would have thought of, but make total sense. And I wonder subconsciously if maybe I am saying certain things without meaning to. Basically, though, the main idea behind these artworks is, well, for the surreal paintings mainly, to do with the subconscious and kind of what goes on behind the scenes in the back of your mind. The monster faces and the teeth and the claws, and they usually, to me anyway, are sort of be like the ancient parts of ourselves, and how they're a little bit more primitive and scary sometimes and monstrous. And the faces are more like what we're trying to portray to the world and hide what's going on sort of in the shadows. The trees, to me, usually more along the lines of your thoughts reaching out and often feeling dry or used up. And the cities that are built on top of these creatures or these faces of people is sort of like a whirl of hopes and expectations built up on top of all the things going on in the background. And these things, these stories and things we build in our head can take on lives of their own and weigh us down often. Working on the artwork is very much like a self-therapy. It keeps me sane and grounded. I find I get very I don't know how to even explain it. Just not right when I'm not working on something art-wise. There's also sort of like a sense of hope, if that makes sense. Creating things out of nothing. It gives me, I guess, a purpose and a reason for being here. The colors for this painting that I used were mainly raw umber, titanium white, and ivory black. I used a little bit of burnt sienna for the war paint on the woman's face. And I had tried, you can see in the beginning of the video, adding a bit of red, but it didn't look right. So the burnt sienna mixed with raw umber just ended up working a lot better. I find with colors I end up getting too carried away and it ends up looking very off. But in the future paintings, I'm thinking of adding in a cooler black to make the contrast a little better. Probably lamp black. But I'll have to do some more experimenting with that. See how it goes. It's funny, I know that most artists will say to use a tinted background, but I tend to like working straight on a bright white background. I find I like the bold highlights and the way it glows. I'm pretty much entirely self-taught. I went to an art university for one semester, but I dropped out. Just found it wasn't for me. But I probably make a lot of mistakes that I probably shouldn't be making in the creation process. The only medium I use is pretty much just linseed oil with a bit of walnut oil added to it. I don't like using any terps. I find it tends to make me fairly sick when I use terps. And a lot of other mediums I've tried over the years, I always end up having issues with them. And as far as varnish, I pretty much always use Gamvar by Gamblin. Sometimes I'll mix a little bit of cold wax medium into it, but usually I just prefer just the Gamvar the way it is. Painting all the feathers is always sort of a love-hate kind of thing because I really enjoy painting them. Every time I paint them, I keep thinking I can do better, and they just never end up quite looking the way I want them to look, even though people often say that how much they like the way they look. But I think I'll get better as time goes on, or hopefully anyway. Painting the hair is another thing that in my head I know what I want to do, but it never ends up coming out the way that I want it to. But it's something else I've been also getting better with over time. And with this painting, I was experimenting with some new brushes that seemed to help quite a lot with getting in the extra detail in the little strands without kind of mucking everything up. With digital painting, the hair is so much easier because I can paint on 20 layers without having to wait for paint to dry. And then if I don't like certain layers, I can scratch parts off or I can delete them entirely. And it just find the whole process easier. The opening hair is quite difficult. This painting really started to come to life for me when I started adding the second layer of the darker background. It just made everything pop more and look a lot richer. And backgrounds for me is another thing I kind of probably do backwards. Painting everything first and painting in the background after is probably not the smartest idea, but it just the way that seems to work for me. Most of the time I can't even usually tell if the paintings even look good or not. I just sort of muddle and mess with them and try and get them to look as good as I can, but a lot of times there's glaring mistakes that I'm not seeing. I've never really been completely happy with the painting and the way it's turned out. There's always some sort of things that look off to me. But I do think I am getting better at that over time, as far as not judging myself so harshly, as well as not having such obvious things that annoy me or that I'm not happy with. There's always usually at least a few times during a painting like this where I think I've ruined it and think I'm a horrible artist and never want to paint again and give up painting entirely, only to come back to it again and keep working at it. I would love to get better at having more of a painterly, looser brushstroke type of painting. I find a lot of the time everything I do is so sort of tight and detailed, and I would love to have it more like amazing artists like Odd Nerdrum, where you have more texture and brushstrokes and softer. But one thing at a time, and I think I'll get there eventually. Well, I guess that's about all I want to say for painting for now. Hopefully you've enjoyed the video, and we'll see where things go next. Thanks for watching.